have been talking a lot about us. Now it's time we would like to reverse that. Unless you have maybe one or two questions you have to the team, we can do that, and then we can play it backwards. Either way.
Well, we'll do our part of sharing about it. I've taken a lot from you, so we have to keep the balance of payment right, as you would know, with all the exchange of soul share. So now idea share should also be balanced. So this is my colleague, this kid. She works on the Ice Stupa project. I'm sure some of you might be curious about that. Therefore, I won't speak about that. She can. I'll speak about what we share common between us, because the longer part of our story is about solar energy. Actually, the ice came only 5 years ago, so it's very recent. Solar we have been doing for now some 30 years, I think. We've been using solar in the most remote and energy deficient place like Ladakh. I don't know if you have an idea, maybe I should say a little bit about Ladakh, which is top north of India, across the Himalayas, and therefore in the rain shadows of the Himalayas. So it's a desert, and at 3,000 to 4,000 meters, which means it's very cold. It's like polar, and sometimes called the third pole, the Tibetan plateau. It's on the fringe of the Tibetan plateau, and therefore very, very energy deficient, because winters are very cold, punishingly cold. -20 is quite normal, -30 sometimes. So our energy needs are, I was just reflecting as I was seeing these, how different our needs are. Of the energy need that some people studied in Ladakh, only 5% is for what you are doing, which is for light and other things. 95% is on heating. So that's how it becomes when you are in a very, very cold place. Our energy needs are mostly about heat, and you're lucky to not have that problem at all. So you can for once feel very fortunate about not having to deal with 95% and only deal with the 5%. You have a very small target to achieve. We have we have 20 times more energy need, and when it is -20, people are somewhat paralyzed. Life comes to not halt but slows down. Even cows dry up. They hardly give any milk when it is cold. So just an example. Similarly, everybody else. Well, our ancestors had their own interesting ways of dealing with it, from houses that would benefit from, say, cattle. So they would have their cattle stay in the ground floor, and with a different entry, people would stay on the top floor and symbiotically exchange energy between the two. So the animals' warmth will benefit the people above, and people's heating up, cooking up will benefit the animals, and so on. They came up with very interesting solutions in their time. Similarly, they came up with solutions not so mechanical or technical, but still very beautiful innovations, and I like sharing. I grew up seeing innovation in different forms, how people solve their problems. So you would think such punishing winters, it must be so difficult. No, actually people look forward to winters. This cold time, they look forward to, because there are beautiful other innovations that can take care of the pain of winter. For example, all our festivals are timed in the winters only. So our forefathers were very wise to time festivals in the cold, punishing time when there is not much to do, no farming happening, no outdoor activities possible. So come winter and all the monasteries have colorful festivals. Similarly, I grew up observing, reflecting and benefiting from this tradition, like come winter and grannies would start telling stories, storytelling time. Throughout the winter they would tell stories, but come spring, first greens that appear outside and storytelling becomes a sin. A sinful activity. Oh, the gods will be angry now. And I think they actually believe. Everyone. I think the grannies were not like chuckling behind. They actually meant it's now sinful activity. We can't tell stories. And storytelling will begin only when all greens are gone and it is punishingly cold. Can you imagine the design behind the strategy behind? Whoever did, there were designers, not of our kind, but they designed so that we reserve these resources for the winter when nothing else can be done. Yeah? So you look forward to that time. Children look forward to that time when you could enjoy the stories, go to the colorful festivals, and then first greens and storytelling is a sin. Can you imagine why the designer thought of that? Why?
So people look forward to winter.
Work.
That's one.
Yeah.
You look forward, so it's kept till next winter. The second?
The winters are gloomy for them.
That. And the second?
Go to for work?
Yes. You should not be sitting listening to stories. You should be in the field making food, and so it becomes a sin to sit inside and listening or telling stories. You have to go and grow. When greens are possible, you're outdoors. So they were very clever in how they designed. And outdoors in the field, it's not very easy at 3,000 meters, in sandy. It's almost like planting things on the moon, yeah? Really, if you look up the pictures, you would find. And they were so innovative that this harsh farming, cakewalk it would be in Bangladesh to farm, except for the floods. But otherwise, warm temperatures, fertile soil.
We also have to work the year round, right? Because it's
Yeah.
always green.
Yes. No storytelling time.
Cow chicken.
So even outdoors when they work, it's very hard work, much harder than farming anywhere else. But they were very clever in designing a song to go with each hard activity. Yeah? So when it is, say, plowing, they have beautiful notes that people would hum for the animals like yaks that would pull the whole system, plowing system. Or if it is harvest, they would have different songs for the harvest, very rhythmic as you go with your thing. So the work becomes a dance with the music that happens in the community, which all come together to help each other. So it's a party every day at his place, at his place, at his place. He comes to mine, I go there, and he arranges or she arranges all the barley beer and the food, and we all go. And then work becomes pleasure actually. When it is winnowing time, which is when you separate the chaff from the grains, you didn't have any machines, you had to fly the mix into the air and expect winds to come. Then you sing to the winds, the gods of winds, and that you don't sing actually, it's a whistle system. Beautiful whistle system. I hope somebody records that and maybe sends to Grammy Awards or something. So finally work becomes easy, and I today say at different places that technology doesn't always make things easy. It's also innovations of other kinds without any moving parts and things that can make things easy. And these farmers at 3,000 meters, very harsh, hard work, perhaps were not as lonely as a Californian farmer in his huge combined harvester would be. With all the technology, I think they would be more down and depressed than this hard-working 3,000 meter farmer. So I grew up looking at those and find it very interesting to share just that how things can be very different, how energy needs are very different, just to add to your understanding of what energy could mean to different places. So we come from a place where 95% is heat alone, and therefore I have been working on both the heating of houses with the sun and powering of them, like here with the electricity. So very early on, after I finished my engineering, interestingly, I took solar and renewable energies as my main engineering. So therefore, I've been very connected. And we created a school which by 1996 was all fully solar, with photovoltaics for the lighting, but again that's only 5% of our needs. So we installed a 3 kilowatt system, perhaps one of the earliest maybe educational institutes maybe in the world to go zero energy and off grid, when perhaps these terms were not even around there. So we installed a solar microgrid for the school campus where we had a power plant. We still have. This is very interesting. So this is like 96. So what is it? Now it's 21 years or something. What is okay? And
24
yeah,
years.
24 years. So that's what solar panels are about, said to last. So those same solar panels are actually working there. So maybe we should do a assessment of their productivity and share the results, whether they actually have that 25. But they do. They have gone down in productivity bit, but they still work. It's interesting to note. So that was our lighting part. But for the heating part, we believe in not using, overusing technology. So like some people these days do, experts, engineers who come from places that don't understand, so they would put photovoltaics and then run a heater to heat the place. Photovoltaics themselves have a 20% efficiency, so you lose 80%, and then with the 20% you put it in a battery, and then you run an electric heater to heat a house of the size that can be very challenging for this system. Instead, we worked on directly heating the houses with the sun, just by orienting the houses to the south, where the sun stays in the winter in the northern hemisphere. Yeah? So it's always in the south. So we would design our houses to benefit from the sun in the winter, and in the summer it's overhead, so it's the coolest. These buildings are coolest in summer, and in winter, just by orientation, which doesn't cost any more money, and by having a black wall, which is the battery bank. Battery banks can be different in different uses. So here you need lead acid or lithium ion. There you need something with thermal capacity. So we used stones or concrete even, or better still water. Nowadays we use water pockets in the south wall, so that during the day the heat goes into the wall with water pockets. Water has 4 times more, specific heat is 4 times more than stone or concrete. So it's counterintuitive, but it's very interesting. And then at night this wall radiates to the room and keeps the room. Our rooms stay plus 15 to plus 20 when it is minus 15 to 20.
Wow. Awesome.
So the funny thing is that Ladakhi people, those who have money, unfortunately have money, build concrete houses. Concrete houses, cement houses, and they are very conductive. Cement houses are so conductive, so they save all their lifelong earnings and build a concrete house like they saw in New Delhi. And then in the winter it's so cold that they have to actually go to New Delhi. Leaving their big house to nobody and go to Delhi. And I say, I live in this, the houses, I don't know if I told, these right oriented with the thermal bank are built with mud. Mud has very good insulation, and we add insulation also. Mud, which is the ancestral form of building. So you build the 3 walls in insulating materials, and then the south wall to absorb, and the roof and the floor very insulating again. So it actually is the principle of a solar cooker, solar oven. Have you seen a solar oven? Yeah, with a glass top. Here it will be top because lower latitude, so higher, but we are higher latitude, so it's like vertical. So it's insulated, you capture all the sun and keep it in the walls and then stop it from losing from any other side. So you get plus 15 in the night. And that's why I say whenever I go to Delhi, from such a house, I feel very cold. That's where people go for warmth and I feel actually very cold. I have to rob blankets from other beds in a hotel because in Delhi it is 7 or 8 outside and 7 or 8 inside. And in Ladakh it is minus 20 outside, but inside it is plus 15. So it's actually much, much warmer. Now the good thing is that for the last 20 years we only developed these technologies for ourselves, our school, our own buildings, our own cows even. So interestingly we developed these cow sheds with solar heating, passive solar heating, because we don't need electricity there, so it's all just simple passive convection currents and conduction. Chapters from the children's 8th class book are actually made to help them solve the problem. So the cows, very interesting thing we observed. We did it after housing all the people in warm solar houses. We thought, why not the animals? How can we leave them in -2, -3 cow sheds? So all the kids got together, designed and built a solar heated cow shed. And guess what? The cows started reciprocating. They started giving 2 times or 3 times more milk.
Nice.
After that. Can you guess why?
Because they're comfortable.
It makes sense. You give me, I give you. There's science to it, apart from the generosity. Well, it's a nice way of explaining the students what the chapter on warm-blooded and cold-blooded animals is about. Yeah? So there are cold-blooded animals that go up and down in temperature like rocks and things on outside, but there are warm-blooded animals like us who have to maintain a temperature. So we, and also the cows, have to maintain plus 37. Plus 37. A degree up or down you may die. I don't know if we realize how intricate our bodies are. They have to be kept at plus 37. Higher it's fever, lower it's hypothermia and you may die. Same with the cows. They have to maintain at plus 37 even if it is minus 15. So where will they generate all that heat inside to keep their bodies? Where? From the food they eat. So all the food they get in the winter goes in just keeping the temperature right. How do you expect milk then? But that's what happens in normal cow sheds in village houses. They just dry up. They stop giving milk and keep just themselves warm. But when we built this solar heated cow shed, just for the cows, we didn't expect the milk and do it. We did it out of kindness for the cows. The cows, I think, saw that the warmth comes from cheaper sources like sun inside the cow shed. So now they could spare the food from maintaining temperature and it got converted into milk, and therefore very strange it is. All other cows in villages would be half a liter a day, 1 liter a day, and here you get 10 liters a day at this school. So that's the benefits of solar energy. On other end of the spectrum, very interestingly. So these are what we have been doing with solar energy. So now the good news is that over the years we only developed for ourselves, and we were not the kind of organization to spread it to others like you are doing, which is so good and very impressive. Our mandate was really to just develop for our own school while we do our schooling right. But there were so many people interested. So the individual families would come and say, how do you build such houses? Please tell me. Now, how do you tell them how to build a house in half an hour and then they go make a mess? So same with the military, which has a huge presence in the mountains. They come and say, our Jawans are freezing to death. How can we do it for the soldiers, barracks and officers, residences and so on? We didn't have much answers for them because we could do it for ourselves, but we didn't know how to give them. Lectures won't help. So then we turned the problem into an opportunity and we ran a batch of solar builders. some of our students were trained extra to become, when I say students, they're 17, 18, yeah, when they finish our school. So we trained them into entrepreneurs, solar builders who build with mud and choose the principles of solar heating, passive heating, and then they became the catering, mechanism to deliver it to the people. So now they are building it for any clients, hotels, resorts, military, and so on, and it's spreading. And now the government is all for building every building solar and not otherwise, because how the economics can work. Just to entertain you, maybe I'll share, because you don't need that heat story here, luckily. It's not cold. So in a place like Ladakh, this is actual conversation. Huh? Some commissioner of the government said, we heard about your buildings. My office is very bad thermally and heat-wise. We use a lot of heaters. What will it cost if we built our office in your way? I said, you'll get it free, sir. Okay, but please be serious. And I said, you actually will get it free. We'll build it for you and free of cost. You just keep spending your heating costs at current rates for 15 years. And then after that, even your heating costs will be free. And it is true. Around 10 years of heating bills will bring back the cost of the building itself. So if there is an entrepreneur who builds it with his own capital, could give him the building and they'll just spend the heating bills. They're so huge, the heating bills, that in 10 years the entrepreneur will recover it. The next 5 years are his margin, the profit, and then after that both are free. They keep, buildings last for 50 to 100 years, so they'll be living happily ever after. So those are kinds of possibilities, and we are actually looking at that. Can we provide the government, with these entrepreneur students who have gone, can we provide the government and the military buildings which come with the heating? You don't pay separately for the building and then a heating bill every winter. You just pay and the entrepreneur takes charge of heating also. If there is need for heating, it's his headache or her headache. Then it makes things simple and they have a big margin to play, entrepreneurs. So similarly, another thing coming, which comes a little similar to yours, is rooftop solar. Rooftop solar generators. In India, there are many schemes coming, like what started in Germany. Individual families installing rooftop solar plants, like 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, that kind. So in Ladakh also it's coming, and we are now thinking that maybe we should, and it's nice to see what you're doing, but it is a different kind, but still it's very interesting to help entrepreneurs come in and help families put large rooftop solar power plants, which in Ladakh we have very, very sunny weather, so it's actually ideal for photovoltaic generation, because very high altitude, clear skies, and very low temperature, which is a rare combination. And then people spend so much money on covering their mud house roofs from leaking. It leaks a lot in Ladakh, the roofs are earthen, so they would use tin sheets or something. Just spend 2 times more and you could have a solar photovoltaic roof, which will not only protect your house from rains and leakage when it rains, but also bring you money. So you could be selling electricity large scale, 2-3 kilowatts from every house, and investors would be happy to invest in such things. You don't have to have the money for buying it, because it's solar plants being installed on every roof, and the house owner is happy that he gets a shade or roof, a rain shelter, and it produces electricity, and it all then combines to either use within Ladakh or export it to the rest of India, which is always hungry about energy. So these are some things where I see we could have some learnings from what you do here also. So just a little story I shared about solar electricity. Maybe you should share a little more the ice project. Before with that, you might have questions about the solar part. Yeah?
I have a question about the weather out there. During winter, I mean, is the weather as sunny as you're saying, or it's not like that? I mean,
Yeah.
the fluctuations of the weather. I understand the summer, but not the winter.
So what is a blessing is that generally speaking, except this winter, generally speaking, it's very, very clear skies. Very clear skies. And when I say -20 to -30 temperatures go, people may think -30, but for me it's -30. You know why? I'm so happy when people, for example, if people told me on phone, oh, it was -25, I'm saying, good. Why? Can you guess? Maybe you can't because you're in a
If there's
totally
some-
different context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
clear
because-
skies.
Yes, the coldest it gets when it is the clearest skies. Yeah, clearest skies. Clearest skies means the maximum solar intake for the passive solar heated building. So if somebody's house is ready to absorb the sun, -20 means wow. -20 means indoors +20. Yeah? But if they tell me on the phone it was -10 yesterday, it means it's cloudy. Only on a cloudy night it will be -10. On a clear night it will be -25, and that's so great for somebody who owns a solar house. Not otherwise. Otherwise means 99.9% of the houses, it's punishing. -20, and you are not even using any of the sun that comes with it. So with your challenge comes a gift. You only cry for the challenge, and gift you just throw away. So that's what it becomes sometimes. So if you're ready to accept the gift that comes with your challenge, then you're all set. -30, wow, celebration.
Or rainy weather?
No, that's the problem, it hardly rains. So in winter it's mostly clear skies, then it is cloudy, but it is followed by a snowfall, which makes it all clear again. But this winter, strangely, we had, I think, in a long time I've seen like 2 to 3 weeks of cloudy weather. That's when solar heated houses get challenged. So temperatures can go down to +12 or so, which is still warmer than Delhi, by the way. So Delhi climate, to which our people used to run away, is our worst experience. It's our, like when our system is very challenged, it becomes like their destination. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, you mentioned that you would make mud houses and you would trade for the utility bills that you receive from them. So how would you measure how much you take every month?
Sorry, about what?
You would make mud houses and they will invest or they will pay you according to the electricity bills or the heating bills. How would you measure that? How much you take?
This last thing of the roof generation, are you talking about?
No, he builds a house in
Oh,
for the
okay.
minister and he has to
Oh, yeah. So, this was more like a statement, but even otherwise, if they just continue at the current rate, I'm saying current rate, huh? So, there was a radio station at that time, that's what made me make this statement. I asked them, what is your winter heating bill? And they said 11 lakh rupees, 1 million rupees every winter. Yeah?
Per month?
Every
Just in a winter. So that's the kind of budget these people are using. And in 15 years, you can imagine, it's like 2 crores or something. You can easily build a house in that. It's all solar, happily ever after with the heat. So you can easily, it's a rough back of envelope
Average
statement, yes, but it is possible. Yeah.
So, weren't you approached by more developed and colder countries for this type of housing? I mean, it would only make sense to say.
So this is very well. It is sensible anywhere, but it is most sensible in the high altitude areas of the world, which are cold with clear skies. Yeah? There it is like it's a no-brainer and it's a crime not to do. Because you're really burning so much and adding to the death of so many species. So I literally mean it's a crime not to do. Yes, but not very formally. But now that we are working on it more systematically through our new alternative university, we hope to cater to at least the Himalayan belt and the Andean belts where it will be very useful. Yeah. So Nepal has also done some things with our consultation. But it will be very useful in all through Afghanistan to Central Asian republics, to Tibet in China, to Bhutan and so on. Very little has been done. It's a treasure which makes so many people suffer, and those who don't suffer, add to the problem. And those who have money just make so much pollution. Yeah.
At some point you said you put insulation in the mud walls.
Yeah.
What sort of insulation do you use?
So we use all range of insulation, from sawdust,
Okay.
waste sawdust from sawmills, wood shavings from carpenters, to waste wool from pashmina goats.
Wow.
You know about pashmina, the cashmere wool,
Yeah.
dream of the luxury fiber. We put it as insulation. No, there's a very funny trick in it. Yeah? So when pashmina fluffy soft wool comes with lot of hair from the goat, yeah? And it's a process to de-hair it. You have to remove the hair and make it really fluffy. The hair that is removed, still there's always an efficiency in anything.
Yeah.
So it has some 15% fluffy insulating wool in it that they can't get, the last 15%. So they throw it away. Now, it's too bad for a shawl to have so much hair, but inside the house, between walls, their loss is our gain. We have 15% real pashmina fiber in the wall, sitting with hair, which doesn't matter for a wall. So that's what we use. And then also, if the clients want, some of our entrepreneurs use regular EPS, XPS, rock wool, etc. But we try not to use those, and we are working now to have shredders. We get a lot of warm cloth garbage in Ladakh. People throw away their jackets after some time, military, so we want to install a shredder which will shred it into fluff, and that may not work for people, but for a building it's great.
So there are options to use plastic or polythene-based materials.
For instance,
Is there any option to use plastic or polythene-based materials to use in your model?
waste polythene or polythene in any form? Okay, let me just answer. So one form, which maybe you are not asking, is we started with using clear plastic as the sun absorbing surface to the front. Plastic greenhouses, like greenhouse plastic. That's one use of plastic, and people sometimes say, but you are using plastic, and I say it's bad to misuse plastic, but use is not bad. Sometimes we become fanatic and any use is bad. So likewise I say cement also, use is good, but misuse is bad. That's where we overdo the misusing part, and then we don't even use it. So plastic can sometimes be used if you can keep it for 10 years, as a greenhouse that heats the house. Then it's the best use that plastic could be used to evade, to replace so much carbon based fossil fuel. Then it is good. But other than that, if you're talking about plastic waste, we put it in the insulation between walls. Often now at our school we don't get any plastic thing, so we restrict. But otherwise, whatever would come, we would make insulation between walls to keep the walls warm. Yeah. Okay.
Who's been the biggest adopter of your technology in Ladakh?
Unfortunately, ourselves. Unfortunately, because people take a long time to adapt to changes. They take a long. It's like 25 years, and now they're asking for it.
So all the hotels that are coming up in Ladakh, nobody's using this technology.
Not in a big way. So now we are thinking, we are doing an alternative university which actually runs businesses on the campus. So we are considering a high-end 5-star kind of hotel which will be fully solar and all built of mud. Yeah? So in peak of winter you could come and live happily knowing that it uses no other fossil fuels, and therefore it becomes a destination in itself. People come only to experience that. So again, it has not been done, so now we are considering doing it ourselves. So it takes time to, I don't know, I didn't think it would take this long, but people adopt half-heartedly, not really big way. Hope that it happens now.
So you have established SecMod in Ghana. So what was the biggest challenge in terms of finance to make it sustainable?
I don't see it as a challenge because we overcame and...
if someone wanted to open a place like SecMod in Bangladesh, what advice would you give?
Well, you have to start with very passionate people who would not run away when the challenges come. So then if you stay on and solve problems, then you can. So SecMol is a school for those who failed and does its learning by doing. And when you do that, there's a lot of learning because you put your whole self into the thing, all senses, not just reading and listening to lectures, but you actually do. So it becomes more powerful way of learning, but it also has a byproduct. When you do, there are things that happen. So when you learn by doing, a school happens, a building happens, a garden happens, fruit trees happen, solar power plants happen, and that is enough income for the school to not charge fees from the students. So that's what the school what makes the school sustainable. So SecMol school is self-funded. It doesn't take any grants, donations from anybody. Yeah? Because what they do to learn produces outputs, and those are wealth. So that's how we solve the financial sustainability. Then environmental sustainability by choosing the right technologies and developing what is not there. When I talk of developing, so when it came to water issues in a desert at high altitude, again, you have to see, you have to understand what your weaknesses are, but you have to see among those weaknesses what are your strengths. So we have many weaknesses that many of our people would moan about. We are too cold, we are too high, we are too dry. So we curse nature for leaving us high and dry, as they say. Maybe that phrase started with Ladakh. But then this is one place where desert means water is so important. High means it's so cold that you can freeze water. So you can freeze water in winter, use it in summer. So we are high and dry, but then this is one place where water can be stored in the sky, frozen. You can't do it in Delhi, Mumbai or Dhaka. Water will just flow. But here you can. That's what ice stupas are. So maybe you can share a little bit about it.
So very briefly, just a little bit of how when ice stupas came about. They were conceptualized in 2014 by Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, and they are basically a climate change adaptation / water resource management method. Because one of the challenges that, like any other place, as a result of climate change that we're facing is very erratic weather. And in Ladakh, that has been affecting the agricultural system a lot, because now we have droughts during times when we really need water for the agricultural activities to kick off, and we have a lot of rain or excess of water during times when we don't really need so much. So this is what ice stupas have been made to kind of address. So what it does is that there are glacial streams and spring waters that are running during winters, not a lot, but then they're running with a good amount of volume, which are not utilized for absolutely anything, and they flow through the main. So Ladakh has valleys that have, all the villages are basically valleys with a main stream running through. So all of these streams, they run through during winters and end up in the river, which is Indus, that flows through Ladakh, and they go completely unutilized. So the idea of ice stupa is to kind of delay this water melting into Indus River, or freeze it, which is what is actually done during winter. So we start in around November to December, and it goes on until March is when the water can freeze. And I'll tell you about how it's done a little bit later. And we freeze it in the form of cones or as towers, and then they start to melt post-March, around April, May, June, depending on the altitude and the warmth of the village, which is when the agricultural activities start off, and which is when droughts are generally felt, because it's too cold for the glaciers to start melting, and if we haven't had good snowfall, then there's no other source of water to irrigate. So that's when ice stupas come into picture, and they address this gap or this period of drought, because it's situated at a much lower altitude, and it starts to melt much before the actual glaciers start melting. So during these months, then the ice stupas start melting and provide water for agriculture. Apart from that, also it recharges groundwater. And now, with in the last 2 years, it has also come about to prove as a source of income, because a lot of villages are opening ice cafes. They just started last year. It's basic, but then with every year they're trying to make it bigger.
Tourism, winter tourism.
Winter tourism, yeah. And also ice climbing as a sport, which was never there in Ladakh, has now started to pick up and was introduced. And in fact, just around 2 days back, there's a Ladakh Mountain Guide Association in Ladakh, which is a group of mountaineers who've done Everest and all of that. So with them, we had the first ice climbing festival in Ladakh, which was a 3-day long event, and it was like an introduction to the sport in the region. So these are also other things that ice stupas are bringing change along with aiding with water during the times of droughts.
I may add, so villages lack water, but also income opportunities. So young people often leave the village, not for Delhi or Mumbai, which they don't go to. They go to the local city of Leh. So a lot of migration, urban migration. Now, what is interestingly happening is when they build ice stupas and we hold ice stupa competitions, young people find interesting things to do in their own village. In the cold winter, like storytelling, this becomes for the adventurous ones to do something in the idle months of winter. And then tourists come, so they get the income from there. When it melts, they get the water. So it's rehabilitating high Himalayan villages in a way, through economy and ecology, both.
And also it's, because during winters, Ladakh is majorly a tourist destination, and that's what most people are involved with during summer. So we have like a season time. Summer is when all of the people start to work, and most of them are in tourism, and winter is a time when these people don't really have much to do. So now ice stupa is also coming in as a community activity of sorts, because now we've also we are trying to expand and have it reach all of the villages, and now we have around 17 villages making ice stupas on their own, who were trained by our team, and we're trying to also make more ice stupas in a particular valley, because then the impact will be felt much more if we have more ice stupas in one valley. So then it becomes like a really nice winter community activity where This time we have around 10 ice stupas being built in a valley right above the main town. So all of these young people who are generally working in tourism during summers are there in the morning and they spend the entire day building ice stupas and just having a good time. So that's also what's happened. How ice stupas are built is also something I know if I don't talk about, you'll ask later. It's a very simple, it's actually really simple. It's a very simple
high school, middle school science.
Middle school science. So all you need is a water source that's a little bit higher, which is there in all of the mountains and the valleys, because it's a valley, the source is here, and generally it comes down onto the river. It's always like that in Ladakh. So you look at a source of water, you identify the source, and then you identify a place where you want to build the ice stupas, and all you need is a pipeline basically that connects the source from the place where you want to build the ice stupa, and then you have a vertical pipe with a sprinkler, and with the pressure of because of gravity, water comes out through the vertical pipe, through the fountain, there's a small fountain on top, and sprinkles down, and because it's freezing temperature during winters, it starts to freeze and slowly form a cone, and you can go as high, as big as you want, depending on how the freezing is in that area, and that's basically the all that you need is.
And why it lasts till June is again middle school geometry. So there are shapes that have low surface area for the volume. You may have read in school spheres or hemispheres or even cones. So cones have low surface area for the volume, so the sun is unable to melt it. So therefore it goes, all ice is gone by mid-March, but this one goes till June. Just stands alone. It looks strange actually. When it's hot, there's no ice, no snow, this cone will only trickle, adding its water to the stream or to a system where it's installed. That's the idea. I think we are getting...
Can you get the drinking water from ice stupas?
Yeah, you can, but so some people like Army have approached us for that, but most places have that little water naturally from springs, etc. So far I don't remember people doing it for drinking.
I think they do also, because in the villages in Ladakh right now people still use stream water for drinking. And ice stupas, we build it on next to a stream bed, so when the stupa melts, it joins the main stream, which is used for everything, agriculture, drinking, everything in the villages.
So that way it adds to that. Yeah.
I hate to break this up, but
Yeah.
I think you do want to eat something before you head to Prague. And I also want to introduce you to another amazing team. They have just come downstairs from Green Living, and we're actually eating their food. And I leave to you to give a very quick...
Oh yeah.
Or we can also do it at the lunch.
Or we can do it
yes,
at lunch,
so that we can.
I think it's easier.
But first of all, thank you very much.
Thank you. Wonderful.